my birthdays? Yeah, special. This is a tugboat right here. This is
Welcome aboard the St. Houston. Safety is a top priority at Port Houston. Please be careful while moving around the vessel during the tour. If you need assistance of any kind, please locate one of the port ambassadors for help. Parents, teachers, and guardians of children on board today, please supervise your children closely. Take care that they remain safe as well as courteous to other passengers. No running, jumping, standing, or leaning over the rails. Standing on any item inside or outside the vessel. We want everyone to have a pleasant and safe voyage. In the event of emergency, the life jackets will be in the rear salon area underneath the seats.
If I could have everyone's attention, please. We have two special people on board this morning with two birthdays. Happy birthday, Van. Happy birthday, Van, and also happy 9th birthday to Victoria. Happy birthday, Victoria.
Taking a tour of the port, much less one of the nation's most important and busiest ports, is a very unusual opportunity, only available to you at Port Houston. We're very proud that the engines on this tour vessel were replaced several years ago with new, cleaner burning engines. Funds for the new engines came from state and federal grants. The old engines were destroyed and recycled. Port Houston recycles and has other environmental initiatives. We have cut our carbon footprint by 55% since 2016, and in 2020 we were the first port to go to choose 100% asset-backed renewable electricity. As we leave the Turning Basin, off to the left you will see public grain elevator number 1. This is leased to Hanson Mueller Corporation, which handles corn, wheat, and oats. As we leave the Turning Basin, we will see a large number of ships that can easily get turned around in the Turning Basin to sail downstream. We're 52 miles from the Gulf of Mexico in the open sea. In just a few short hours, these large cargo ships make that journey to the end of the channel and then on to their final destination. Port Houston owns this vessel and 8 public terminals. That's including 2 world-class container terminals, Bayport and Barber's Cut. There are also more than 200 private terminals along the ship channel. Port Houston's terminals, along with private terminals, are known as Port of Houston. Each year, more than 8,200 cargo ships call at Port of Houston, bringing everything from petroleum to consumer goods to steel and automobiles. More than 200,000 barge transits occur along the channel each year, carrying liquid cargoes and taking containerized cargo to smaller ports along the Gulf Coast. Houston is the nation's busiest port and ranked first for waterborne tonnage. All of these tons of cargo generate tremendous economic activity and jobs, especially here in Harris County. More than 37 million tons of cargo move across Houston's docks every year, and 1.32 million jobs are generated throughout Texas due to ship channel related activity. Overall economic impact of the port is $339 billion statewide. This economic activity generates $4.5 billion in state and local taxes. Houston Ship Channel certainly didn't start out this way. Early days of Houston, the shallow draft of Buffalo Bayou to the foot of Main Street was sufficient. Cargo from larger ships was offloaded near Galveston on the barges for the long and winding trip from the Gulf of Mexico. Transporting goods up the waterway like this was a costly compromise for Houston's lack of a deep water port. During the 1890s, U.S. Representative Tom Ball spent countless hours trying to convince his congressional colleagues to support a deep water port for Houston. September 1900, a devastating hurricane slammed into Galveston and created one of the worst disasters in American history. More than 8,000 lives were lost, and much of the island and businesses were swept away by the storm surge. Ball's argument for a protected port 52 miles upstream from Galveston and its exposed location took on a greater meaning. With the discovery of oil at Spindletop in 1901, and crops such as rice beginning to rival the dominant export crop of cotton, the Houston Ship Channel needed the capacity to handle newer and larger vessels. Tom Ball proposed a revolutionary concept. He suggested that Houston share the cost with the federal government for dredging a deep water channel to Houston. The Harris County Houston Ship Channel Navigation District was formed, and a campaign was launched to persuade voters to approve $1.25 billion in bonds to pay for the district's share of the waterway. Jesse H. Jones would be a major force in the port's destiny. Took it upon himself to ask each Houston bank to accept the bonds, and within 24 hours he persuaded each bank to invest in the project. Work on the ship channel commenced in 1912, and on the morning of September 7, 1914, the dredge Texas signaled by whistle the completion of the channel. The ceremony to open the channel was held Tuesday morning, November 10, 1914. Dignitaries gathered at the Turning Basin in great anticipation. Thousands of people attended the ceremony, which was marked by a 21-gun salute from the office in Washington, D.C. President Woodrow fired a cannon via remote control to officially mark the channel was open for business. This is CFF Recycling USA. This is a French-owned company with operations all over the world. They handle every type of metal, crush and shred it in preparation for shipment to facilities where the recycled metal is made useful again. Past that is Southwest Shipyard, where many different types of vessels are sent for repairs. A dry dock is used to elevate the ship out of water so it can be worked on. There's a good chance you may see ro-ro ships at the port today. Ro-ro stands for roll-on, roll-off cargo, which may be automobiles. Long warehouses you see on your left are called transit sheds. They protect cargo from weather and might include large rolls of paper or rolled steel. Once the cargo is unloaded, it may later be taken by truck or rail to its destination. Some of the older transit sheds date back to the first days of the port, when they housed mostly cotton that was exported all over the world. Cargo can be stored temporarily in the transit sheds or loaded directly from ship onto truck. Directly ahead of us is the 610 bridge, which crosses over the ship channel. This is the Sidney Sherman Bridge, built in 1973. The bridge has a clearance of 135 feet. Sidney Sherman Bridge was named after Sidney Sherman, who was a general in the Texas Army during the Texas Revolution. Came from Kentucky to fight on behalf of Texas and led his troops at the Battle of San Jacinto. Huntsman Corporation. This manufactures specialty chemical products for the rigid urethane industry. Their products include foams used in walk-in coolers, architectural panels, picnic coolers, spray foams, and architectural moldings. Their products add a fire-resistant feature. Much of the industry you see along the Houston Ship Channel flourished during World War II because of the great Houstonian Jesse Jones. He served as a Secretary of Commerce during President Roosevelt administration and helped prepare the United States to enter the war. In December 1941, Japan attacked Malaysia and conquered the Malaysian Peninsula. It took control of over 90% of the world's supply of natural rubber. Although the industry had been trying to develop a reliable synthetic rubber, none existed that could be used on the scale necessary for the war effort. Jones pushed for a reliable substitute because without rubber, America couldn't win the war. With only a 6-month supply, the government rationed its stockpile. By 1943, a reliable synthetic rubber was made using a petroleum byproduct. Since the new synthetic rubber needed petroleum, the new plants were built near petroleum supplies. Half of the 23 plants were built in the Southwest, primarily in Texas and Louisiana. 2 plants were built along the Houston Ship Channel. $116 million was invested by 1945 in plants and materials along the Houston Ship Channel for the synthetic rubber effort. That investment kept a great number of people employed and established a new industry. By the time World War II ended, the synthetic rubber industry employed 24,000 workers. Military requirements of World War II led to the rapid development of other new industries in the Houston area. Demand for motor and aviation fuel accelerated expansion of the Houston area refineries. New plants were constructed to convert previously wasted refinery gases into chemicals for the manufacture of explosives and synthetic rubber. Long-range transmission of natural gas and petroleum pipeline operations began and soon established Houston as a major hub for this activity. Petroleum hasn't always been imported to Port Houston ever since 1914. It wasn't until World War II that the petrochemical business flourished. Today, Port Houston is home to the world's second largest petrochemical complex, which in turn transformed Houston into the center of international trade and commerce. On the left-hand side, U.S. Coast Guard base for emergency operations. Coast Guard is in charge of security on the ship channel. Only ships authorized to be in the channel are allowed here. Coast Guard makes sure that the recreational boats stay out of restricted areas and are quickly escorted out. Coast Guard is authorized to board all vessels to make sure they have legitimate business here. Its officers are the eyes on the ship channel and work with private industry. Port Houston and local law enforcement are used to make sure the port is safe and secure all the time. Now back to the right is a mid-sized refinery. This is Valero. This began operations in 1942 and handles 145,000 barrels of oil per day. Will produce items such as gasolines, kerosene, jet fuel, diesel fuel, and asphalt. On the right-hand side, this is New Manchester Terminal. This will handle break bulk cargo and heavy lift projects. It will have a berthing spot for up to 6 smaller ships. The left-hand side, we will see the U.S. gypsum plant. This will produce wallboard and sheetrock products. Further down on the left, Port Houston's Woodhouse Terminal. This will include grain elevator number 2. It's leased to Lansing Trade Group. This handles up to 2 million tons of grain each year. Another large refinery further down to the right, that is Houston Refinery. It is one of the largest full conversion refineries in North America and is capable of processing heavy, high sulfur crude oil, which comes primarily from Venezuela. This refinery handles close to 300,000 barrels of oil per day. Of 7.5 million barrels of different products. We have over 133 storage tanks with a capacity from 10,000 barrels up to 180,000 barrels. The facility will have 4 ship docks and 4 barge docks. Some of the products handled include petroleum, chemicals, lube oil, vegetable oil, and biodiesel. Unlike most ports, Houston exports more than it imports, and that helps keep the port strong and less likely to fall to economic disruptions. Many businesses along the Houston Ship Channel take raw products and create finished materials that are either transported somewhere in the U.S. or exported through the port. For example, high-quality steel from Japan, Germany, and Italy are transformed into drilling pipe that is used for energy exploration all over the world. And when the shale boom took off recently, oil production expanded and the U.S. became a net exporter for the first time in decades. Meanwhile, lower natural gas costs spurred billions of dollars in manufacturing investments for plastic resins, as well as more exports of cleaner fuels. Texas ports benefited, and on the Gulf Coast, Houston saw demand increase. All that activity helped create more jobs.